Alright everybody, this is Brandon from Accessory House Global, and I'm here today with a colleague, friend, and actually a former customer of mine. This is Jean-Marc.
Yep, nice to meet you.
And we're here to talk about the new Solo Pro headphones, which came out I think in November, like literally 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, maybe it was late October, I don't really know exactly. But we're going to do a little review about those today. And obviously we have Black Friday coming up in about 4 days, I think it is. This is Monday the 25th, so Black Friday I think is the 29th. Is it 29th?
Yeah.
Something like that. Sure.
Okay. Who knows?
It's this Friday, whatever that means. Is this worth your money? You know, Christmas is coming. Are you gonna spend out all those pennies on a brand new piece of gear when you could get something just as good, if not better, for less?
Yeah.
So let's start off with accessories.
Yeah.
I know you just did an unboxing about this, and you know,
link in description.
what's coming out in when I first look at this is the box itself. I like how it folds out. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's actually.
After that, pretty disappointed. Being an accessory guy, you know, this is what I have on my Amazon store. This carrying case just makes me squeamish and sick because it is literally paper thin, and I can literally just poke it, like no pressure at all, and it collapses. So these headphones cost like $300 or more. They cost £270 if you're in the UK. That's a lot of money to spend on something that comes with this piece of junk. So the first thing you would do if you do buy these is you gotta buy a better case, because let me tell you, if these land on the floor, if you're buying these for your kid or your nephew or something like that, these are gonna fall, they're gonna hit the floor, they're gonna fall out of bags, they're gonna get crushed inside of a bag. That's not gonna protect it. You know, what do you think?
I don't 100% agree on this. I mean, this is just. The thing is, I've seen previous Beats products, and if we go all the way back to the Studio One, they had pretty good cases.
They had a case that was made out of EVA material.
Exactly.
And it was thicker.
But it's not just the actual, as you said, it's not just the actual build quality. It's just the actual look of the case and the feel of this material. Like, this is just shiny, not very nice.
If you even get this near Velcro, it's just going to have threads sticking out of it. It's going to look like it grew hair, basically, because the Velcro is going to get it, and you're going to pull it off, and then it's just going to have strands all over the place.
Like an icky microfiber, basically, which is just not nice at all. So yeah, accessories. The thing is, the part about accessories that even got to me is, Apple have taken the headphone jack off headphones as well here. So if you're an Android user, for instance, if you do ever want to just plug in your 3.5mm adapter, you can't do it on the headphones. So if you're out of battery, you're completely lost. That's it. You've lost it basically. So it's not great. And it's a lightning cable. I mean, so this really is just for Apple users. You cannot USB-C this. It's better than micro USB, sure, but USB-C would have been slightly nicer. So yeah, accessories definitely could be improved. Literally all you get is the carabiner, the cable, and then the case, which isn't really good enough. For how much is this headphone going for right now?
It's $300 USD.
$300.
Or it's £269 pounds.
Yeah.
If you're in the UK.
Solid C- on accessories, I'd say. Like, they're enough, I guess. Yeah, at least you get a case, but I mean, what does that even say?
And the other thing, you know, the big thing is obviously Christmas is coming. This is a new product that's been released just before Christmas, so you're not going to get a deal on it. But this is the one that you're seeing on the commercials. This is the one that the kids or the family members or whoever is asking for. They want the new Solo Pros. And reality is, you're better off playing the Solo 3s, I would say. Yeah. Just based on...
We haven't even gone on to sound.
Yeah.
We've already come to this conclusion.
Wait a minute here. Let's stop there for a second.
Alright, so build quality and design. These feel just like any other Beats Solo, maybe slightly better with some features. I know Apple was quite sort of happy with their new aluminum sliders over here on both sides. So the arms right now are aluminum, but the rest of it it's the same Beats plastic. They made it matte, which is good on them. I mean, they literally call it more matte, so it's no longer that cheap, shiny.
Beats has always been synonymous with fashion.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
a lot of their design is to look nice, and you know, it's part of what they wear each day. So
I like that.
You know, they do look nice. You know,
nothing against.
You have them around your neck, you have them on your head. They look like a nice headphone.
Yeah, they do, and I like this little sort of Sennheiser Momentum-esque little hole where it slides up in. The only thing though, it's just when you start looking at the design slightly deeper, you realize that they've cut corners in places that are just, it's not great. Firstly, the way that this thing goes up, you can actually feel the slider, there's like a small gap in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can feel like there's a little bit of a rough edge on the aluminum over here. Like this just doesn't inspire confidence, and it's not smooth all the way through. Like
a lot of wiggle.
Yeah, like there's a small bit here where it's like smooth, and then it just jumps up because there's no resistance, and it becomes resistant again.
Right.
So it's just like, okay, I mean, that doesn't feel great. This is the usual sort of silicone, which Beats seems to use a lot. I know over time these can get a bit icky. They're better than having cloth or sort of cheap leather bands, sure, but again, if you're sweating or you're using these in the gym, this will get kind of icky, which isn't very nice. It smells a lot, I've noticed, silicone. I mean, with my AirPods silicone case, which is almost the same material, which I have on top of mine, after using it at the gym, it just almost grabs the stench of sweat, which isn't very nice at all, the rubber smell. But it's just the smaller things, like what they've done now is they've put these buttons over here. You see how loud that is? I'm just pressing them normally. Now that might sound okay here, but if you put them on your head and you actually try to press these buttons, it sounds loud, like there's an echo in the headphone, as if you're pressing cheap plastic into your skull.
Yeah, when I was listening to them, and you go to hit volume up, there's like an echo in your right ear every time you hit volume up.
Anything, volume up, volume out, just this horrible plastic on plastic sound. It's like, okay, I get that this is convenient. Like sometimes it's better than a touchpad, because if you have sweaty fingers or you're running around or you just have gloves on, you just want to be able to press something and not worry about it. But at the same time, the sound is so horrible, and the feel. This look, there's no button on the side. This is just a button on top and bottom. But this just
wiggles.
It's just like it just wiggles. Like it feels like you're gonna break that just by looking at it, and just the sound it makes. Again, could be better. Some nicer controls would have been nicer, and I feel like it takes away. This is definitely the biggest hit to the aesthetic and general sort of build quality. It's this button. And the second thing is as well, it's all on the right hand side, and I've realized from my personal use, I actually prefer buttons to be on the left or at the bottom, because if I'm writing something with a pen, for instance, and I want to quickly change the track,
you're obviously right-handed.
I'm right-handed.
Most people are right-handed.
Yep. So you want to sort of pick up your pen and change a track. If I've got them on here, you've got your pen in one hand. How do you can't really press it because it's sort of here. Whereas if it was at the bottom, I can just do it with my thumb while the pen's in hand. Maybe having them on the left would have been nicer.
If it was on the left, much more of the population would just simply
be writing down.
Keep typing, keep writing.
Next track, there we go. But from holding it's just small issue with that. In terms of the pads,
that's an issue there.
Yeah,
the reason why this is an issue is because if you feel the pads, they are a protein PU, which is what most companies use these days. However, Beats used to use Japanese protein PU, which is the same stuff Bose uses, which is really soft and sleek, and it feels really nice on your ears. Now what they're using is just normal protein PU, which is, it completely feels different. And when you're paying this much money for a set of headphones, you would anticipate that they wouldn't cut corners, especially with the ear pads, which is like the most comfortable part of the headphone that's going to keep you kind of listening. It also affects noise canceling. So all in all, they've cut corners on the material they're using on the ear pads, compared to, if you go back to the Solo 3s, those were made with Japanese protein leather, which is the fine stuff.
In terms of the weight distribution as well, let me just put these on again, really just sort of remind myself immediately,
well, don't do that.
I know.
It looks like it's going to break.
It's going to break, yeah. So you can feel like as you stretch them, it's just more resistance. It's not a nice linear way of putting them on. And I mean, look, they've made the pads, they've given them more surface area. That's one thing I've immediately noticed from the old Solos. They've said that as well. They've given them more surface area on the pads. They've taken out there's no more sort of a seam here. It just goes straight into the padding below, which is definitely better. There's no sort of plastic digging into.
They are thicker too.
Yeah.
They definitely are. They're probably about 1.5 times ish. A little bit bigger.
Around that, but the issue is, it's just the weight distribution on top. You still feel like there's a little bit of a pressure point up here. That's just my head, which is quite tall, but it's just the pads themselves, the way that they pressure in. You see, there's not much movement here, like in this direction and sort of in this axis.
Yeah.
So when you stretch them up, there's only so much they can press in. So they end up pressing up here, up top, sort of just where the top of your earlobe is, instead of evenly distributing the pressure on your ear. Which again, it's an issue with on-ear designs in general, but this could have definitely been a lot better since they've come to this.
Over time. If that's happening, you're gonna wear these for an hour and a half, maybe.
Exactly.
And your ears are gonna hurt, and you're gonna be like, oh, I gotta take these off, which is not what you want.
It's just. Yeah. It's a solid B in terms of comfort for me. I feel it could be better. I guess onto the sound now, really. Since we've discussed comfort and the way they fit.
We've both listened to these.
Yes.
I'll let Jean-Marc go first here.
Yeah. So just to sort of let you know what I usually listen to. Look, whilst I do love my Odyssey LCD3, things like this Denon D7200, these are, I understand, these are high-end headphones. This is not an expensive headphone. This is just a consumer brand. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like,
is it an expensive headphone?
It is for what it is.
It is a mainstream headphone, right? You know, Bose and Beats are quite mainstream. Everybody knows about them. They have the most money. They sell the most headphones. But it's how much money are they putting into their headphones?
Exactly.
So if you look at the Beats right now, they're not putting that much money into these headphones.
No,
but they charge you an arm and a leg to buy them. So
But what I was trying to say really is that, look, I'm going into this not as an audiophile going, you know what, the bass tightness here or the upper mid-range, I'm not going to go into it like that. Just sort of how do these sound compared to their competition, to what you can get for about, 300, 250 pounds. Yeah. And honestly, not that great. The frequency response of the headphones in general, the way that they've tuned them, is a step back, I feel, from the previous solos. And actually is really, again, they're an on-ear design. There's always going to be limitations to this type of technology. But it's just not pleasant to listen to. What they've done is they've sort of increased the sub bass artificially. You can feel that the driver is sometimes struggling to produce just that lowest bass frequency. And they've tuned down the mid bass, which is where you hear sort of all bass guitars. So what ends up happening is you get a big sub bass slam, like a sort of when the track hits that specific note, you go, oh wow, there's a lot of rumble here. But because they've toned down the mid bass, you've lost a bit of punch. It doesn't feel as tight. You don't hear the actual bass texture. You just hear a bit of a thud.
Is it all kind of mixed together?
Yeah, it's not as bad as something like the first solo, which just the bass just dropped off at the sub bass, and it was just a muddle of mess. There was no texture, but it's just not great. If you look at the bars and Vocals P7, for instance, P7X even the P9s, which I don't really like. The sub bass has been artificially boosted, but it's textured. Like it's been boosted. It could be distracted sometimes, but you can tell that it gives the headphone a character, whereas here it doesn't really give it a character, it just gives it a dullness. It gives it sort of a rumble and no real punch or texture. It's almost like you hear the music punching between your eyes or rumbling in the back, but not a nice sort of solid bass line. And this sort of transcends into the mid-range. The lower mids here, which is where I get the nice warmth from vocals, the sort of the lower part of electric guitars, the things that give music most body here, seems to be scooped out. So you end up getting an almost V shape. You get a big sub bass sort of boost, reduction in the mid-range, lower mid-range, a reduction in the upper bass, which makes the music sound a bit thin, a bit sterile.
You said you weren't going to get technical.
I know. It's just okay. It's just you put them on.
Should I take over now?
No, check this out. Even if you put them on as a normal listener, I promise you, this is not me going, at 200 hertz they're slightly. No. If you give this to a normal listener and someone that has just never heard headphones before, has a basic idea of headphones, they will go, the music sounds thin. The music sounds a bit abrasive, it sounds harsh, and it's lacking punch. They will say that. I mean, when I put them on instantly, when I gave them to you, were like, wait a second, they sound lacking. If we go sort of to where
they definitely sound like previous Beats.
They do.
If you go solo 3s, they sound similar. Solo 2s, they sound similar.
I'd say they sound slightly worse.
Beats has, I'm just commenting on the general sound, like, there is a sound to Beats, it's a bassy sound.
Of course.
Dance music, rap, R&B, that is like, Dr.
Sure.
Dre, right? Dr. Dre is the guy, he's the one that made these things, so he's aiming for that type of music originally. So if you're listening to classical music with these, ooh, God.
No, of course not. But the thing is, I don't even listen to classical music. I'm the worst audiophile. I love...
Even me listening to... I listen to rap, I listen to dance music and stuff like that. And, I would definitely say the solo 3s are probably the best sounding solo beats I have heard. Out of the beats, right? Yeah. Just out of the solos. Not saying the studios. These ones I don't like.
Okay.
The solo 3s are better sounding. right?
Yeah. So I kept on getting mixed up between Solo 3 and Solo Pro. I don't know why they've done this. It's like Solo 3, Solo Pro. What's
Solo
is
1?
this
You got
better?
Solo HD.
Solo
you got
1,
Solo 2.
3.
You got Solo 3,
And
and
then
now you got Solo Pro.
Pro,
And
exactly.
they're all the on-ear versions, right?
Yeah, it's like, even if you love rap and you love your sort of V-shape, and I love a V-shape signature. I mean, for those that are audiophiles, if you think of Fostex TX100, Fostex TH900s, the Denon D7200s, they're V-shaped headphones. You know what I mean? But they do it well. Whereas here, it's just like V-shaped, no punch. And I didn't even get to the highs yet. Where the vocal region is, I didn't even get there. I was like,
We don't got our gun then. People are tuning off.
Alright, so yeah, it gets sort of where the vocals are. Very nasally sounding, very pinched. Literally, that's the best way to say it. Pinched, very forward, quite aggressive on the upper registers, almost as if someone's shrieking at you. There's a big shh sound coming out of these headphones.
Some of the instruments, like on the music, the song that you played.
Which is, by the way, Mad Young's album, Good Faith, amazing album.
Some of the instruments just don't sound right.
No, they don't. It sounds artificial.
You hear it's dragging a bit on certain instruments, and it's you said yourself it sounds like a hiss rather than what a cymbal
exactly
should sound like in the music, and it's like I would never have picked that up unless you had pointed it out to me. But so I'm like your typical guy, I guess you'd say, when you're listening to the solos. I'm not picking up on those fine details just yet, but that's it's noticeable when someone helps point it out to you, definitely.
Yeah, and it's very nasally, quite harsh, and then you'd think, okay, the treble, surely for V-shape, that sparkle, that crackle of snares, you want to hear that. There's no treble extension. Like, they've boosted the treble to make you think there's detail, sort of to give it that dynamic, to sort of make it feel like it's got a good transient response, to make it feel like it's sharp and articulate. But it's not. It's almost quite dull. So if you hear a snare hit, you hear the shh, and you hear the thud, but you don't hear the nice sparkle or the reverb, or there's no air.
Right.
It's literally as if someone's just chopped up the upper end, boosted that sort of upper mid, lower treble harshness, tizziness space. And yeah, it just sounds...
Well, here's a question.
Yeah.
Is this an Apple thing?
I don't think
You
so.
know, like as soon as you remove Dr. Dre from the picture because he sold it to them,
Yeah.
and he's a billionaire now, is this like... Are they losing touch with what the sound should be?
No.
No?
Honestly, no. Because, look, I have a pair of AirPods, which I love using, which I use in the gym, which I sometimes use on commutes. And I think they sound better than these. For real. Because, okay, sure, the AirPods still have the same issues with bass control and issues with the lower mids. But at least they sound a bit more pleasant, sort of towards the top end. Things just sound a bit less nasally and a bit less aggressive and sharp. Honestly, after 15 minutes with these, I feel at moderate listening volumes, you would get fatigued. You'd be like, the harshness is just... And the other issue is as well sound leakage. What I'll do is let me just play a track. So right now this is on my, and I'm not even an Apple user, I've got my Samsung here, and it connected fine. I've got them sort of about 70% volume, which I would say is comfortable listening levels if you're outside.
Yeah.
And if I put them on my leg right now, the song's just finished, which is super convenient. Really amazing.
Way to go.
Prepared reviewer over here. Yeah, very fine. So that's pressed tight against my knee. You can still hear that.
I can hear all of it.
You like that? Look, that's just. That's if you're in a busy train, like people will actually hear that. Like I'm just pausing that. But yeah, it's just. It's just everything's just not quite there. The sound.
I could have sang along.
You could have.
I heard it so much. Yeah, I could have sang along to it.
I don't know. It's just everything just feels like, okay, listen. If this is your first ever headphone and you listen to them and you're like, you know what, these are better than dollar store headphones. Fine, they're okay.
Yeah.
But how much are you paying for these? Look at the competition. Even Master Dynamic MH40s, literally headphones that are 4 years old that you can buy for like 80, 90 pounds right now that don't have noise cancelling, don't have sort of any of the fancy new features, are still, I'd say, a 10-time better sounding headphone than these, a 10-time better package overall. Even with all the tech, the H1 chip, I think they're calling it now.
Yeah.
They just keep changing the name. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think what's happening is you're getting, it sounds like beat sound.
It's like getting emotional. I was like, I need a few minutes.
You're definitely having so many more things added to these headphones, like all these different technologies to it. But then the sound itself, the reason for the headphone, is getting lost in some of these companies. So I'm not going to say that everything Beats makes is bad, because it's not. But in this situation here, looking at how much this costs, get a set of Solo 3s for half the price, and it's gonna be better, and the amount, when you compare the statistics to them, like how many hours does it last, the Solo 3 with a charge? It's still 40 hours. It still has that really good chip in it that makes it last super long. So you could use it for a whole week or two and never recharge it. Well, that's the same thing here. There's not much difference in those little extra things. So.
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, overall, even as someone that wants to go out and buy a headphone in this range, a noise cancelling headphone, I don't think this is what you want.
Agreed.